course, we had 10,000 people listening to the broadcast this morning, and folks, you can certainly help by, letting the people on your social networking list know about the broadcast. Encourage them to tune in, especially this week and maybe next. We're going to continue this discussion of trust for a few days. I got more material stacked up around my radio table here than I'll ever touch today. But nevertheless, we can look at things from, law books. We can bring out Blackstone's commentaries. We can bring out we've got the Black's Law Dictionary, the big one here, and others inside me, Go into philosophy, logic, grammar, rhetoric. Ultimately, we need to find utility in all of this, How do we use this information? And so we can go into this family legal guide, again, prepared by Reader's Digest, a complete encyclopedia of law for the layman, 1981. We read it again. A relationship on a trust. We're going to talk about trust and how it can be used in your life. This is like one of those how to do it things, how to change a light bulb, how to install a light fixture. Only it's very intense, 1,000 pages here, even longer. Again, a relationship in which someone holds property for the benefit of another. Can you see any use in that? What's the utility there? The person who creates the trust is the settler. The person who holds the property for another's benefit is the trustee. The person who benefits from the trust is the beneficiary. And the property that makes up the trust is the trust property. Don't try and crib notes. You're not going to get it all. Go back and listen to the archives a couple of times. They're free. Example, Rose's mother signs over certain stocks to a bank with instructions to give Rose the dividend checks each year until she turns 30, when she is to get all of the stock. Rose's mother is the settler of the trust, the bank is the trustee, the stock is the trust property, and Rose is the beneficiary. A nice, simple, easy to understand example. And it continues. A settler of a trust may designate that he is to be the sole beneficiary of a trust, with another person acting as trustee. This type of trust is known as self-settled trust. Because the settler is taking care of himself, Rose's mother could have told the bank that only she was to receive the dividend checks until she died, and thus creating a self-settled trust. A person may keep the right to revoke the trust at any time. Remember, we talked about this. There's an all-out war raging between legal positivism and the natural law, that in the rise of statism, the state has arrogated or taken unto itself all of the natural law, returned as codified, statutory, regulated, privileges, taxable, licensable, and revocable. A person may have the right to revoke the trust at any time and have the trust property returned to him. This is known as a revocable trust. Anybody ever read the Universal Declaration of Human Rights? You can find it in the back of the Black's Law Dictionary, 8th. You can find it elsewhere also. But unlike our Declaration and Bill of Rights, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights sounds so wonderful. But what the United Nations gives with one hand, they take in the last section. Unless you toe the line and follow the United Nations plan and program of action for the 21st century, they can revoke those rights. You ever had your driver's license revoked? You have a license to practice law, maybe you practice haircutting, maybe to practice massage, maybe to shoe horses. You have a license somewhere. You've contracted with this state or this county, and that license is the tie that binds you to their system. Not only their system of tax collection, making you perpetually a tax collector for the entity, the legal fiction, but also makes you subject to their rules. They hold the strings. It's revocable. No matter how great your business is, no matter how nicely you set it up, at a moment's notice, if you displease the beast system, they can revoke your license. So much for being a professional. Otherwise, a trust is irrevocable. The person who sets up an irrevocable trust cannot demand that the trust be ended or that the property be returned to him. So you want to be careful. Don't set up something you can't undo. But realize that the beast system is well aware of all of this too. They've created this material. And if they set up an irrevocable trust and you find yourself entangled in it, don't anticipate getting out anytime soon. In the above example, Rose's mother created an irrevocable trust because she did not state that she intended to keep the right to revoke the arrangement. You see, intention plays a big part in all of this. Our words, we're slayed by our words. She didn't say so. No one's got crystal balls here. We don't have Ouija boards here. This is a court of law. You came in and we're talking this state, and so we tried you in this state, found you guilty. But if you'd come into the state and stood on the sovereignty of the free man on the land in the state, we would have had to change venue. We would have changed jurisdiction. My God in heaven, this one is awake. What do we do? I don't know. Let's call the Uniform Law Commission and get instructions how to defeat this argument. Adjourned until tomorrow. A trustee takes legal title to the trust property. This means that his interest in the property appears to be one of full and complete ownership and possession, but he does not have the right to receive any benefits from the property. Curious, isn't it? Wow. He has full and complete ownership and possession, but he does not have the right to receive any benefits from the property. The title to the benefit from the property, known as equitable title, we talked about that, equitable title versus legal title, yesterday's broadcast, briefly. The right to benefit from the property, known as equitable title, belongs to the beneficiary. In the example cited, the bank, which serves as trustee, has legal title to the stock and must carry out all the legal obligations and duties connected with the possession of the stock. Rose, as the beneficiary, has equitable title. So the bank has legal title. Rose, the beneficiary, has the equitable title. She receives all the benefits from the stock. And when Rose becomes 30 and is given all the stock, the trust ends. It's all done. You can burn your mortgage. It's finished. She has outright ownership of the stock, including the right to receive all the benefits from her ownership. And again, I just have to give credit where credit is due and tip my hat once again to Alfred Addisk. I learned a lot from listening to Alfred and other people, other voices. I'm looking forward to his continuing discussions with Donna Barrett because they're really getting down to something. They're not out there worried about the symptoms and the victims. They're going after the disease. So do we right here on this broadcast. If we can eradicate this disease, there will be no more symptoms, and we'll stop having to resuscitate the victims. The terms of the trust state the duties and the powers of the trustee and the rights of the beneficiary that are determined by the settlor when the trust is created. You can think of all of the language that we find in the Declaration of Independence that implies a trust, and in the Constitution. Another place you can go is www.the-legacy.info for a DVD presentation on this. They tie it all together, grammar and the whole works. They even go resort to my favorite dictionary, Noah Webster's 18 and 28. In the above examples, the instructions to the bank to pay the dividends from the stock to Rose until she reaches 30 and then to give her stock all are the terms of the trust created by Rose's mother. The bank has the duty to pay the dividends to Rose, who has an enforceable right to them. The terms of the trust will usually specify what is to happen to the trust property when the trust is ended. If the terms do not do so, the ownership of the trust will ultimately revert to the settler if he's alive, or to his heirs. At the termination of the trust. The trustee will hold the property in a resulting trust for the settler or his estate. And then it continues and it says, see implied trust later in the article, and we will. Not today. Now I want to give you some more application theory. Book that I received years ago written by Grant Hall. It's called The Privacy Crisis, Identity Theft, Prevention and Guide to Anonymous Living. It's really important, because we do slay ourselves with our own language. We drag ourselves into this state unknowingly, and then we will wind up being subject to all the codified statutory regulations, taxable, licensable, and revocable. And we didn't really want to do that. But there's things that we can do. Prevention. Since key personal information is used in identity theft, the best way to prevent becoming a victim is to eliminate or at least drastically reduce the availability of information about you to anyone who might want to become you. Or to prey upon you would be another way of looking at it too. A good foundation to prevent identity theft can be laid by following privacy rules. These rules will enable you to conduct your everyday life as an anonymous person. We'll continue with that right after this.